several myths surrounded the stones. One tale said the stones were pagan soldiers that had been turned to stone by Pope Cornelius. Catholic Pope turned them to stone? Yeah, that wouldn't have worked. I love science myself, and I figured why not have something a little different. The Carnac Stones of France are older, bigger, and weirder than Stonehenge. This comes from I fucking love science. The Carnac Stones are the largest collection of ancient megaliths in the world. In here, so most folks have heard of Stonehenge when you're thinking about ancient structures and rock formations and what have you, because it is a very iconic shape and formation with the tall things and the structures at the top. These are the Carnac Stones, which are in France. Stonehenge is in the UK. And it is certainly a little bit different. I had actually not heard much of the Carnac Stones myself until stumbling over this particular thing. The Carnac Stones have inspired stories and fueled myths for thousands of years. Along the south coast of Brittany in northwestern France, an unassuming field studded with around 3,000 ancient megaliths. Their original purpose, however, remains a total mystery. The Carnac Stones were likely placed during the Neolithic era before the advent of agriculture in the area. It is said the stones date back to 4500 BC, but it's thought they were moved to the field in the Carnac region around 3300 BC. Either way, that's older than Stonehenge in southern England, which is estimated to have been built in numerous stages from 3000 BC to 2000 BC. So, they don't look like much. The Carnac Stones don't look like much, but they're not, shall we say, they're not natural. They were put there by somebody. Ancient humans way back when you think about the fact that, you wouldn't have had a bulldozer, you wouldn't have had a backhoe, you certainly wouldn't have had a truck or anything like that. How you get it there is an amazing feat by itself. You're rolling a boulder uphill, or how many people did it take to pick it up? Those kinds of things. So it's certainly interesting because, as I said, the ancient megaliths supposedly placed there before agriculture, 4500 BC, moved there around 3300 BC. I mean, it's the same kind of question as with Stonehenge. How the hell did you build Stonehenge when this predated a whole lot of things? The Carnac Stones are the largest collection of ancient megaliths in the world. The thousands of rocks are spread across an area of about 3 kilometers, 1.8 miles. Most are carved from granite taken from the local area, but some appear to have been sourced from quarries in eastern Alemannia, up to 40 kilometers, 24 miles away. Now, that's a pretty incredible feat considering this likely took place over 6,000 years ago. Yes, think of that. You're moving a boulder, essentially, from 24 miles away to where it currently sits. And it's certainly an interesting thing, and this is where you get into archaeology, into cultural things and what have you, archaeology, anthropology, cultural related issues and what have you. It's like, why would the ancient humans of that time have moved those rocks and put in all that time and effort for what must have been pretty damn heavy to move all of them from 24 miles away to where they now sit in the Carnac region? Although many of the stones have been placed in a repetitive and orderly fashion, that's one of the other reasons this is not natural, is because they're placed in order like this. They are not uniform and can be split into a number of different categories based upon their shape and alignment, known as limenic. I'm butchering the French. Apologies. Carmario and Kerliscan. I probably butchered the French. Since the beginning of the 19th century, the Carnac Stones have been described as a temple, in quotes there, that likely had some spiritual significance. There were even attempts to prove the stones are placed to align with stars and planets, but these hypotheses have fallen flat. Still today, there is no widely accepted theory on their purpose. Goodness knows how long it's going to take to figure out. And, we may never know. We may never know, because this is the whole field of the Carnac Stones, going all the way down and all the way up here. They run for as long as the eyes can see. It's very fascinating. These kinds of old things. Why did we as ancient humans do this? Carnac also baffled the Romans when they occupied Brittany from the 1st century BC until the 5th century CE. Over the centuries, several myths, oh, it's AD, isn't it? Over the centuries, several myths surrounded the stones. One tale said the stones were pagan soldiers that had been turned to stone by Pope Cornelius. Catholic Pope turned them to stone? Yeah, that wouldn't have worked. While another legend says, I mean, that's my guess anyway, while another legend says that they were a Roman legion that Merlin the wizard had cast into stone. So yes, if you're thinking of King Arthur's court, Merlin the wizard, remember? There are plenty of interesting theories, some with examples that seem to fit in certain circumstances, but there's always more to disprove them than to prove them. Olivier, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, the administrator of the site told BBC Travel in September of 2022. The Carnac alignments are not straight. They meander and follow a ridge that separates the coastal plain from the interior, land-based world, likely acting as a kind of symbolic border between the two. Of course, it did not prevent people from passing between them, but it marks a geographical separation between land and sea that isn't random. But its ceremonial or religious significance is open to interpretation. So, I mean, that's one thing. If they're placed along a ridge where, on one side it's generally going towards the coast and the other side is much more interior, that actually kind of makes a certain amount of sense that they could have been placed there just for that reason. To mark a boundary, whether it was religious or cultural or spiritual, between one thing and another. And, think of maybe some older societies. The sea was kind of an unknown. In a way, the sea was kind of an unknown and potentially dangerous. So what do you do? Where do you mark where you're getting to the sea? Could be like that. But anyway, I figured it would be a little bit more entertaining and a little bit different to just have some fun with the Carnac Stones, if you will. Got any thoughts on how these ancient stones were placed? How did they get them there? Why did they get them there? What do you think your theory is and why the Carnac Stones ended up in this bloody old random alignment here? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts in the comments and what you think is the reason for how these particular stones got where they are in France. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button on the way as you comment the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, all that lovely good jazz. Until next time, I'm Adrian. May you stay curious, everybody.